I don't care how many guides, tutorials, or walkthroughs you watch to make money online or learn how to become super successful, because the truth is, even though we all have access to the same information, the top 1% will always remain the top 1%. And the only way that people like myself and countless others were able to make millions of dollars online at such a young age is because we quite literally beat ourselves down and reinvented ourselves entirely. Not just read a bunch of self-help books or watched some tutorials on the internet. Hand on heart, I stand by the fact that the only way to achieve true success is to completely reprogram your entire brain. And once you've done this, everything else is pretty simple. It's just about acquiring the right knowledge and information that you lack and executing day in and day out, incessantly solving problems until you get what you want. Without any further ado, I'm going to teach you how to rewire your entire mind and optimize every single aspect of your life so that you're building from the right place and you can actually go on to achieve success and hopefully make millions of dollars leveraging the online world. Now, I'm not going to miss a single beat. Here's a table of contents. I'm going to be going through every single one of these things, from crafting the right mindset to balancing school versus work, navigating romantic relationships, and enjoying your life to the fullest. So come back to this table of contents if you want to revisit any of these sections, which I'll also have as chapters in the video, which you can find in the description, or skip to with your mouse by just clicking on that section of the video. Now, firstly, we have crafting the right mindset. Now, ideally in this stage, you want to have your journal out and you just want to be jotting down as many thoughts as possible. Asking yourself questions like, what makes me tick? Or when am I most excited and energized throughout my day? But to sum things up here, the few most important things that you should be doing is analyzing and identifying your strengths and weaknesses so that you can hopefully start to align your strengths with the things that you want to work on. And yes, it's okay to work on your weaknesses too, but what's more powerful is doubling down on something that you're already very good at or naturally inclined to do, and then hopefully get far better results than everybody else. Next, I want to make very clear that your passion is not static. It's not something that's intrinsically just hidden inside of you deep down and you have to pull it out by going on some crazy quest and unlocking your true self. Like, that's a bunch of bullshit. Your passion is actually built and developed just like anything else in life. And so the only way to develop your passion is to take as much stabs at different things in life as possible until you figure out what you can gain some momentum in, and then you'll become quite good. An example of this is when I used to play Fortnite. I was pretty shit in the beginning, but I just kept hopping on because all my friends were encouraging me to hop on. And then after a few weeks, I started to get pretty good. And I actually started to enjoy the game, but in the beginning, I didn't like it at all. Now, would I say that I had a passion for Fortnite? Not in the beginning, but a couple months into me playing, when I got pretty good and I was actually winning the odd time, I could say, yes, I'm passionate about playing Fortnite. And if I was really, really good, then who knows, maybe I could have built a career around it. Next, we have surrounding yourself with inspiration and leaving your comfort zone. One of the best things that you can do if you want to find your passion or figure out what it is that you should be developing is to throw yourself in an entirely new and uncomfortable situation. Whenever I feel like my purpose is kind of dwindling and I don't really know what I'm doing with my life, I like to throw myself in a completely different situation. Maybe I'll travel across the other end of the world and post up for 5 or 6 months. Maybe I'll start a brand new business venture that's always been in the back of my head. But it's through these new experiences that I'm actually able to learn and uncover what I'm truly good at, and also what I should be doing for the long run. Once you have at least somewhat of an idea in terms of what direction you want to head in and what you could be working on, the most important thing is to establish your goals early on. But not just any goals. Don't just say, I want to make $1 million and that's it. You need to set SMART goals. These goals must be specific and significant to you, measurable so you're actually able to track the progress of your goal, achievable, so yes, in reality, it is actually achievable. Now, as much as I believe you can do anything you want, would it really be achievable for you at, let's say, 30 years old to say, I want to make it to the NBA and become the greatest basketball player of all time? Probably not on that one, because as we know, the most important or crucial times to develop in a sport is early on, when our muscles and our muscle memory is still developing. And by the age of 30, in a sport that's very height dominant, if you're below 6 feet tall, it's probably not reasonable for you to say you want to make the NBA. And lastly, we have relevant and time bound. Is this goal relevant to your life and what you ultimately want in the future? And time bound, does it have a specific time frame that you want to be achieving it in? Once you have some goals mapped out for yourself, You can then start documenting and taking action. You can break your goals down into sub-goals, and then those sub-goals down into daily actions that you need to take every single day. And you can start documenting that process in your journal so that you can revisit it and see where you went right or where you potentially went wrong over the past few weeks or months. Everybody talks about accountability, but the real reason why you need to be accountable to your goals and the things that you say you're going to do is because when you don't, your brain subconsciously remembers that. And then you become a person, you mold into this new identity of somebody who doesn't finish what he started, somebody who can't see things through, somebody who breaks the trust they have with themselves. And that is a very dangerous position to be in, because that will literally hold you back from anything you want to achieve in life, because your brain will automatically go, oh yeah, I can't really do this. I never follow through on my goals. And even if consciously you're telling yourself you can, if you have this identity built up of this version of you that doesn't commit and stick through to things like probably most people in this world, then you will never reach the goals that you set. Along with all this comes having a growth mindset. Instead of being stuck in a frame of mind where you feel that you're the victim and everything is happening to you, realize that you can still control a lot, if not everything, of what happens to you in your life by your daily actions. Work outside your comfort zone. View effort as the path to mastery instead of just vanity metrics. For example, when I first started YouTube, I could have easily hung in the towel at any point because my videos simply weren't getting any views. No matter what angle I approached it at, the results weren't there to show for the time and effort that I was putting in. But I didn't judge myself on vanity metrics. I judged myself based on how much effort did I put in. And if I could consistently judge myself on that in every single thing that I do, I'm gonna be so much better off for it, and the results are gonna exponentially compound. Now, something in common with pretty much every single successful person that I know is that they meditate. And no, I'm not talking about like this woo-woo shit where you sit there for 45 minutes and you're manifesting and meditating that $1 million is gonna show up under your bed the next morning. That doesn't happen. Meditation and manifestation and all this stuff is actually very heavily rooted in science. In fact, it's more science-based than anything else that I'm gonna be talking about in this entire video. And so what you can do by meditating is you can actually enter into theta state. So your brain has all these different brain waves from beta, alpha, theta, and delta, and it's constantly running at a different output. And so what's so important about these theta and delta stages is that this is where you can truly start to mold your subconscious brain, your identity. And your subconscious brain is the 90% of your brain that just isn't firing most of the time. Now, we're molding this very heavily when we're young, which is why the limiting beliefs and traumatic events and things that happen to us in childhood often stick with us well into our future. And in order to do that inner work and fix these childhood traumas, you have to be able to enter in to the theta state of your brain in order to completely rewire the subconscious. Now, if we could use this state of our brain to rewire our past traumas and things that negatively happened to us in our lives, then couldn't we also use this exact framework to get things that we desire? And the answer is yes. And like I said, every single successful person understands the power of their subconscious mind. It's like a car that's just driving them on autopilot throughout every single day. And once you can have a good handle on your subconscious by learning how to meditate, be present, sit with your thoughts, and help navigate that car on autopilot in the right direction, then you've already won. And chances are you'll be so much more successful than everybody else. Now, obviously, meditation is a huge topic, which could be covered in a super long video in and of itself. But briefly, how to meditate is, number one, you want to set your intention. So before you begin meditating, think about why you're doing this. Do you want to reduce your stress? Do you want to increase your self-confidence or figure out what you want out of life? Next, you need to believe in yourself. You need to truly, to your core, internalize and believe that you're capable of achieving whatever you set out to achieve. You also need to meditate and build from a positive vibrational state, like gratitude. You can't be having all these negative emotions, or this process is simply not going to work. Once you have that kind of foundation at least set up and you're in the right frame of mind, this is where you can begin to meditate. You can follow through some guided meditations online. You can download some apps on your phone, or you can just sit with yourself, sit with your thoughts in a quiet room with no distractions, 10 to 30 minutes, somewhere in that range, and do this every single day until you get better and better at entering that theta state and starting to reprogram your subconscious for whatever it is that you want. And I know I kind of glazed over just like believing in yourself, and this topic is a pretty big one in and of itself. So a couple key things here is, don't listen to that self-doubt, that little voice that's in the back of your head every single day saying, can I really do this? should I give up now? I'm getting tired. I need to go home. My chest is sore. Whatever it's saying to you on a day-to-day basis, just drown that shit out. Listen for it, be aware of it, and then fight against it. And I know, again, a lot easier said than done, but this stuff just comes with practice. Next, we've got visualizing yourself achieving your goals. So every single day, find a time, maybe before bed, when you wake up. I like to do it in the shower. You literally visualize yourself living in the reality that you want to live in. So whether that's, you're living in a high-rise penthouse, you're driving a Lamborghini, whatever vision you have for the future, the more you can actually visualize it and tangibly see how your life is going to be when you achieve this, the more likely you are to actually get there. And this all goes into the subconscious, manifestation, all these things work together. And again, positive self-talk and affirmations are a few small things you can do throughout the day as well. And no, I don't mean just like waking up every single morning and yelling in the mirror that you're a millionaire, but maybe putting up little sticky notes, something I used to do in front of my bed or in front of my showers. So places where I'm spending a lot of time, if I just look straight, I'm always going to be reminded of those little things, which again is going to make me visualize, is going to make me manifest, is going to remind me I need to meditate today. And when you stack all this stuff up together, that's when it truly becomes powerful and life-changing. Now let's move on to optimizing your productivity and time management. Way too many people these days are all over the place, splitting their focus a million directions, and it's no wonder why you're not seeing any lasting compounding results, because your brain is literally incapable of getting you the results because it's so diverted into so many different things. So a couple things I like to do to help with this would be time blocking and setting your days into 1 hour intervals. I literally just use a Google spreadsheet. You can use a Google Calendar, you can use some sort of task manager, whatever you want. But the idea here is to know before the next day exactly what you're doing in that day and throughout each hour or each period of the day. You can take it down to the minute if you want to be hyper specific. I remember I used to do this. Now I generally block my days in hours. So every single hour of the day, I'll know what I'm doing. And then that way, when I'm actually doing it, I can bring 100% of my focus to that period of time instead of not knowing what I'm doing all day, and when I'm working, thinking about family, and when I'm with my family, thinking about work. Instead, time block all this stuff and bring 110% effort, presence, and focus into every single task and watch your productivity explode. Keep it simple. Don't go crazy. It's literally that easy, and it's crazy how many people don't do this. Another thing that's helpful here is creating a priority list. So likely every single week or even every single day, start filling up your days that are coming ahead of you with the important tasks that you need to hit. And always attack the highest leverage and highest priority item first, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But another really important thing here is to craft your anti-vision. So everybody thinks, okay, what should I do today in order to get to the next level? But nobody thinks, what are the things that I might do today that will hold me back from reaching the next level? And I'm a firm believer that for 90% of people, the things that are holding them back from their goals isn't a lack of actions or daily habits that they need to take. Rather, it's a bunch of things that they need to cut out that are holding them back. So, common things to put on your anti-vision list would be partying, going out, chasing women, video games, drinking or substance abuse, gambling. These are generally negative things that are taking away from the stuff that you're likely working on in order to get to the next level in your life. So take a look at your life, and if any of these things are on there, maybe you should add it to your own anti-vision and try to stay away from these as much as possible. Now here's what I was talking about. First things first, eat the frog. So if you're getting into your workday, you want to do the thing that you have the most resistance towards doing as early on as possible. And the reason for this is simple. In our brains, we have this chemical called dopamine, which basically gets released whenever we do something stimulating, or you can think of it as fun or exciting. And every single night when we go to sleep and we wake up, our dopamine baseline level resets to a certain extent. And so if we wake up in the morning, the first thing that we're doing is scrolling TikTok and watching YouTube videos, then we're gonna be getting a lot of stimulation from these perfectly curated videos by creators. And what's gonna happen is that dopamine is gonna spike through the roof, and it'll be very hard to bring it back down. Throughout the rest of the day, we'll wanna continue engaging in high stimulus activities like watching Netflix, like partying, like drinking, like going out with friends, and we'll be stuck in this dopamine chasing loop, which means that the later in your day it gets, typically the harder it's going to be for you to do the thing that you already have the most amount of resistance towards doing, the hardest task on your to-do list. So like I said, a rule for myself, I'm always attacking the frog first thing in the morning. I'm grabbing my laptop, bringing it into my bed, and I'm getting done that annoying task that I've been putting off forever. And this little table can help you with that. So if the task is important and it's urgent, do it first. This is probably your frog that you need to eat. If the task is important but it's not urgent, you can push it for later in your day or even another day in the week. Now, if the task is urgent, but it's not important, then hopefully you can delegate this out to somebody else. Maybe if you're a solopreneur, if you're very early on in your journey, probably push this to later. And then finally, if it's not important and it's not urgent, then you should just eliminate that task altogether from your priorities and to-do list, because it's simply just sucking your mental energy and taking away from the things that you should be focusing on. Another thing that's going to be super helpful for you is setting boundaries in your life with the people that you love the most. And I know this can be very difficult to do, having those hard conversations, sitting down with your friends, your family, your partner, and explaining to them that, look, I'm currently working on this new version of myself. I'm really giving it everything I got to transform my life. And I would appreciate it if you did everything you could to help support me in this path and in my mission and not hold me back. And so if somebody truly loves you, they should be able to help you with that. As in, they won't be asking you to come out to the club every Friday, Saturday night. If they're gonna hang out with you, they're gonna do something productive, like go to the gym or come get a work session in. And if people are just disrespecting that, even after you set those boundaries and had that conversation with them, then maybe you should have a more serious conversation with them, or really think about if they truly love, support you, and want the best for you. Now, what would an optimizing your life guide be without talking about balancing your physical, mental, and emotional health? So first things first here, healthy eating. You literally are what you eat. And most people are eating junk food all day, and they're getting stuck in this vicious cycle of having a lack of energy, which means they're less productive, they do less work, or they don't get things done, which leads to them making less money. And then that leads to them resorting to cheaper and less healthy alternatives for food. And they get stuck in this cycle and they're trapped because they're always putting really poor inputs into their body, and then their outputs are really poor, which means they can only afford poor inputs, and they're stuck. I think a lot of people, they're not necessarily stuck, but they feel as though, oh my gosh, I would never spend $100 a week on my groceries. And yet these are the same people that will go out to the club and spend $100 in a night. And so again, you just need to rewire your priorities and put health right at the very top, because health is gonna open so many doors, is gonna make you so much more money, is gonna bring you so much more progress. And so even if it's a little bit more expensive, try to spend the extra money, eat whole foods, avoid toxic processed junk, avoid seed oils and inflammatory foods, and also excessive carbohydrates, especially in the morning. If you're gonna have a lot of carbs, like a massive pasta or something, make sure you do it timed around your workouts, because this is gonna fuel you for your workouts or help you recover from your workouts. But if you're not even working out, and you're eating a massive pasta in the morning, what do you think is going to happen? Those carbs are going to spike your glucose levels, and that's going to leave you feeling tired throughout the day. So generally, guys, it's a lot simpler than it sounds. The rule is eat as many whole foods and single ingredient foods as possible. Now, if you want to take things a step further, you can start to invest into your gut health with companies like Viome. You can invest into custom supplements based on your blood parameters with companies like Bionic. You can invest into sleep hygiene with companies like Aura. I'm wearing my Aura ring right now. But generally, all this extra stuff, it's not needed, and it's just micro optimizations. If you do the basics right, eat whole foods, hydrate well, aim for 8 hours of sleep every single night, then you've already beat out 95% of the population, and you're gonna see your productivity skyrocket. And a fitness routine, I think, is a non-negotiable. Everybody should be moving their body. If you're just sitting in your office or in your desk all day, every day, you will burn out. Like, humans were not meant to do this. We're not meant to sit. We're meant to get up and move around, run around. We're the best endurance organisms on the planet. And so my personal recommendation is that you move your body for at least 30 minutes a day. This will increase focus, mental clarity, productivity. You'll likely just feel so much better about yourself. And there's a million benefits about working out that I could go on and on and on for, but chances are you already know a lot of them. You just need to commit to something that works for you. So if you can aim for that 30-minute mark, whether you're at the gym building muscle, whether you're going for a walk, just doing anything really, you're gonna see insane progress in all areas of your life. Now, something else that helps with all of this is connecting with an accountability partner. And ideally somebody who's on a similar path or in a similar industry, or maybe a bit of a mentor figure to you. Hopefully they also possess the traits of being a great listener. They can understand your context of problems. They can help with valuable solutions and input. You can also reciprocate their support to them as well. So that's why they're called an accountability partner. It's somebody that you check in with maybe once a week, maybe once a month, and you make sure each other's on track. Now, I know this sounds corny and not really all that helpful, but truly, when you're accountable to somebody else, you're gonna watch as you do the things that you don't want to do, because you probably haven't built up that mentality that I was talking about earlier yet, where like you literally can't live if you know that you let yourself down. But the majority of people are okay with letting themselves down, but they're not okay with letting others down, which is why the majority of people work for somebody else and they show up every single day to school or to a job because they can't let those people down. If you have an accountability partner and you guys set your intention for the week and you promise each other that when you hop on that next call on Friday, you'll all have achieved the items that you said you would, the likelihood of you actually achieving the things that you said you were going to in that week is going to increase dramatically. Now, I also get a lot of questions about traveling the world and learning from different cultures. Big thumbs up for me. I think this is a fantastic use of time, energy, and resources, but there are a few things that I want to warn you about before jumping in. So again, this is all based on my own opinions, but I would personally refrain from traveling at the early stages or very beginning of your sort of internet entrepreneurial career. This is because it is expensive, no doubt, to take plane tickets, to pay for Airbnbs or hotels or any kind of accommodation anywhere in the world. And if you don't already have some momentum with your work, then it will be very difficult to get something off the ground when you're not in an optimized home environment. Now, if you have some cash built up already, sure, why not? Go build from another place. But chances are, if you were like me and you're starting from zero, then you probably want to stick to your parents' basement for a little while longer until you can build that momentum. Now, once you've decided you can and you want to travel, where should you travel? So I've done the whole country hopping 2-3 days in the country and just exploring the world. I've also done the opposite, which is like spending 1 to 3 months in a specific place. And from experience, I would highly recommend the latter, because although country hopping can be fun, it's definitely more of a vacation, and it doesn't give you a long enough time to experience the new culture, learn from new people that you met abroad, or connect with people that you maybe met online, because even if you do connect with someone, you're gone the next day and you'll probably never see him again. So my preference for traveling and working is definitely hunkering down in one spot for 1 to 3 months. And ideally this spot should have less distractions than my home. So again, if I look at my anti-vision in this spot, am I going to be more inclined to going out, to drinking, to chasing women, to all these kind of things? And if the answer is yes, I'm going to be less inclined to do these things, then it's probably a good place. Another thing that I like to look for is sunlight hours. So consistent sun will make you feel a lot more energized and productive throughout the day. Also gives you an opportunity to work outside, to change your environment a bit more. So I generally wouldn't hunker down in somewhere, freezing cold and rainy to get work done for 1 to 3 months, because otherwise I could just do that in my home here in Canada. But the good news is there's definitely many places around the world that have good sunlight even throughout the entire year. Now, the benefits of traveling. So meeting new people in person that you previously would have only connected with online. This is an opportunity for you to learn so much about new cultures, about new ways of living, about things that you didn't even know were possible. And also, of course, to help bolster the growth of your business, new untapped ways of making money, potential partnerships you can explore. Really, the list goes on and on about how a single person has the ability to change your life. And this has happened to me time and time again from traveling and meeting new people. I genuinely don't think I'd be as far along in my career as I am now if I didn't step outside of my own little bubble and force myself to meet people from all around the world. Now, I know everything so far sounds pretty good about traveling, and you're probably going to want to go and book yourself 2 to 3 months in a villa in Bali. I just want to explain a couple more drawbacks of traveling, because I wish somebody had told me this before I started going all around the world. So traveling takes you out of your routine. Look, it can be difficult to get adjusted to a new sleep cycle, eating patterns, re-optimizing your environments and your health abroad. And this will take a little bit of time. Expect it to also shave a little bit of time off the work that you're going to be able to get done. Now, next, you're going to lose being around your core people. And, this can be a temporary positive, especially if the core people in your life are typically doing things that don't align with the future that you're trying to build. But it could also affect your emotional health. You could feel more alone than ever on the other side of the world. You might end up feeling homesick, and that could take away from the productivity and the focus towards your goals at hand. So just something to be aware of. And then it's also easy to get sucked into things. Typically when you're abroad and you're meeting new people, you're a yes man. You're saying yes to every single opportunity that comes your way because you've already taken the leap of faith. You've already thrown yourself in a new and uncomfortable environment. But if you end up meeting people out there that aren't supportive of your goals, you're going to be more likely to say yes to doing the negative things that you don't want to do. And then you just might get stuck in this situation where you're constantly going out and constantly doing the things that you told yourself you wouldn't, until you finally return home and you're like, damn, I just wasted that whole 3 months and I got nothing to show for myself. Now, I also want to talk about traveling on a budget, because you don't need to spend ridiculous amounts of money to do this. You could even start traveling on a $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month income. I don't know. It's entirely possible, right? So when you're splitting expenses with others, if you found a couple of boys that you want to go and live in a villa with abroad, then you can split the cost of that entire Airbnb or accommodation. And if you split everything 4 ways, chances are it'll be a lot cheaper for you than living in, let's say, your own apartment at home. On top of that, you can create an environment with the right people that fosters growth and creativity even more than just being alone. Now, you also want to choose places with a lower cost of living, especially earlier on. This is a major benefit of working for yourself and having all of your income come from online. So let's take advantage of it. For the first couple of years of my life, I wasn't doing this, and then it finally hit me. I was like, wait, I make all my money online, and everybody always talks about how they dream of having this laptop lifestyle, and I'm actually living this, but all I do is sit in my damn apartment at home. So I finally started traveling, and we went to places like Bali, like Turkey, and we were spending a few $1,000s a month to live like a king. Meanwhile, my home city, Vancouver, Canada, you spend a few $1,000s a month and basically living in some guy's basement with a mattress on the floor. So truly, your money can go a lot farther for you somewhere else in the world. You just have to find that place and make sure it aligns with everything else that you're looking for, and then you'll be good to go. Now, inevitably in your journey, you're going to be dealing with stress, uncertainty, failure, some negative emotions. So how do we handle these? Okay. So stress will inevitably come up when you're working for yourself and you're building an online business. I mean, really, it feels like you've put your back against the wall and you have to do everything that you can. And that is a stressful situation to be in, especially when you don't have any kind of financial base and you're a young guy trying to make it all alone in the big wide world, So one thing that really helped me with all this is physical activity. So again, just moving every single day was probably the biggest lever that I could pull for releasing my stress. And actually my metrics on Aura will show for that as well. The more that I move my body, the more active I am, generally the lower my stress is across the board, even if I'm going through some difficult situations with my work. Another thing you can do is meditating, stretching and mobility. Breath work is also really important, and carving out time every single day to just be present, relax, take time off, have some conversations outside of your work with a few loved ones, even if it's just a FaceTime or on the phone. All these things will be great for the mental state. Now, dealing with failure. So now I understand that you're gonna reach roadblock after roadblock, hurdle after hurdle. You're gonna hit the ground over and over again. That's part of the journey. Just accept that now. Accept it and learn to enjoy it. If you can learn to enjoy failures, to laugh them off, to learn from them and reach the next level, not only are you going to be less stressed, but you'll actually bounce back faster and you'll make more progress. So, just like the stock market, every single recession and new low that you're facing in your life is really just priming yourself for your next all-time high. Think of your life like the S&P 500 chart. Some days might be red, some might be green, but if you look back on a 5-year basis, a 10-year, 20-year, you're always moving up. And even if you have a massive dip one year, just like the S&P 500, a year or two later, you will return and you will indeed reach a new all-time high in your life. Now, we've already touched a little bit on, your peers, your friends, your family, but what does it truly take to reconstruct that social circle to work for you instead of against you? So first lever we can pull, social media. Now you need to understand first that social media is a highlight reel with perfectly edited and curated content. So you shouldn't be spending most of your day scrolling. In fact, I barely use social media to scroll. I know that's funny because a lot of you guys follow me on all social media platforms, but the truth is I use social media as a creator, not a consumer. So if you're gonna be on these platforms, think about creating instead of consuming, and whether or not you're a consumer or you're a creator, think about who you're connected with, because that's inevitably going to pull your time. I mean, even when I open Instagram, if I don't plan on scrolling, the people that I follow will immediately pop up on my feed, and I could get sucked into that loop of looking at their content. So are the people that I'm following teaching me something, providing me value, or giving me advice that will help me achieve my goals and support me in the direction that I'm moving in? Or are these people taking away from that and they're encouraging me to go out and party and do this dumb shit? So really ask yourself that question and go through and purge all your old followers. Look, I don't care if Jimmy was in your science class in high school, and Jimmy sure won't care if you unfollow him either. I know we have this perception that everybody cares if you unfollow them, and they're gonna cry about it and you feel like a bad person. You don't want to put yourself above other people by unfollowing. That's not the case at all. There could be a million reasons why you unfollow someone, and if anyone asks, just say, hey, I'm using my socials for work now. You can always text me. And the real people in your life will have your phone number. They don't need to be on your Instagram, right? So you can unfollow all these people, and you should do this on all the platforms as well, because it'll help declutter your feed like crazy. And just remember when you're going through these social media platforms that the whole essence is that they're designed to make you feel as though you should be somewhere else, with someone else, doing something else. And the truth of the matter is you should be exactly where you are right now, doing what you're doing, because every single action you've taken in your life leading up to this point has brought you here. Social media is tricking you. It's making you feel all these negative emotions, feel jealousy, feel whatever. You got to understand that what you're seeing also is not a good representation of what the world is really like or what reality is like. Your feed is always going to be curated based on your interests and preferences. There are billions of posts on social media, yet you probably see the same shit every single day because your algorithm knows what to feed you, because you got addicted to consuming that kind of content, and then you felt that that content you're consuming is reality. So break out of that mindset right now. It's not reality. In fact, I probably never seen some of the content you're looking at daily and you think is common. We all get profiled differently on social media, and I mean, chances are you and your friends are consuming the same content because that's your social circle and you've all influenced one another. But if I open my feed up right now, all I ever see on there is business and value content, because that's how I've designed it. I've designed it to work for me and not against me. It is your duty to avoid getting distracted in 2025. This will set you leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else. So here's a few things you should do on each one of these other platforms. And again, just apply these same principles to any other platforms that are sucking up your time on a day-to-day basis. Now let's talk about the physical world. So cutting off your friends and family. They're always sapping your time and wanting to pull you off the grind. I understand this is probably one of the hardest things to do, especially if you've known these people for years. And so that's why I'm giving you guys an easier way out. If you have, some really great friends or some really great family members, but they're pulling you back, the best thing for you to do is, again, set those clear boundaries and expectations with them. Let them know you're on a transformational journey. But if that's not working, you can naturally detach by spending less time with them. And over time, what's going to happen is you're just going to become this whole new person, and they're going to remain the exact same, or maybe they're even going in a different path. And when you guys do inevitably link up a year in the future, 2 years in the future, they're going to feel that, they're going to see that, and they're no longer going to feel that tight, close bond with you anymore. And it sucks, but it's growth, and we all change, and we have amazing friends and people in our life at certain periods of time, and we have to accept that those are chapters in our life, and these people don't always remain forever. Now, there will be a few people that always remain forever in your life, no doubt, but if any of those cross your boundaries, cross your lines, it might be something to think about getting rid of, because how can you truly love somebody that doesn't love you back at all? And it's very easy to see that when they're doing things that are going against exactly what you want in life. Something to think about. I know it's a lot easier said than done. Now next, we got staying true to yourself. Okay, so this is super, super important. Not getting ahead of yourself is the first thing. There are infinite levels and new possibilities for the person you and the size of your business can grow into. You need to understand that you're in a very long-term game. If you're an entrepreneur, you're just in life in general is a long-term game. So the secret to everlasting growth, impact, and longevity is simply just showing up and putting one foot in front of the other every single day. And do not get this massive inflated big head ego because you made your first $100,000, you made your first $1 million, whatever it is. I've seen this happen so many times. It's always a really, really sad day when I have a friend of mine who makes a bunch of money and does really well and starts treating everybody else around him differently and starts being a dick. And it sucks for me because I have to cut that person out of my life. Look, I don't want to be associated with people who talk down, who bash others, who are haters. And also, hate only comes from below, right? So if you're hating on someone, it's likely that it's out of jealousy. When has somebody ever hated on you that was above you? When is, like, if you've made $1 million in your entrepreneurial career and somebody's made 100, do you ever see the guy who's made 100 million in the comments section of the guy who's made $1 million hating on him? No, you don't. It's all the people below who's never made $1 million in their life saying, this must be a scam, this is bullshit. You got to look at the kind of people who are constantly spreading hate on other people. There are these people that are so low and so sad and insignificant. They feel like dropping these hate comments, whether that's in real life or online, will hopefully boost them up just a little bit. And these are the worst kind of people. Jealousy is a killer of your dreams. So if you find yourself becoming one of these people and you're starting to make excuses as to why others have things that you wish you could have, and you end up like everybody else just blaming, then you seriously need to sit down and have a conversation with yourself, because you're never going to get anywhere in life with this mentality. And also, just what a shitty way to live, what a shallow way to live, what a shitty human being you are if you're constantly in this state of mind. You know, no offense to you if you're in this current place, but you seriously do need to fix it. And I'm only saying that because I know where this road goes, and it goes nowhere, by the way, and I want the best for each and every one of you guys that's tuned into my content. Now, also, you need to understand that we all are born with our own hand to play, right? Some people have unique advantages that play in their favor. Maybe some people are insanely smart. Maybe some people are insanely good looking. Maybe some people are insanely good at just speaking off the top of their head on camera, right? These are extra opportunities that probably 99.9% of the population weren't born with, but maybe you can identify your own unique opportunities. And if you really feel like you don't have any, which kind of sounds like bullshit to me, because I feel like everybody has their own strengths and weaknesses, it looks like you're just gonna have to play with what you got and figure out how to keep advancing. So a gentle reminder, the next time you catch yourself being jealous or wanting to hate on somebody or something, even if it's just a thought in your mind, turn that jealousy into inspiration. So instead of looking at the guy that's got 1 million subscribers on YouTube and being like, damn, this guy only had this because he looks good, or this guy only had this because he got lucky with that one viral video, I'm gonna get inspired by his success, and I'm gonna be like, okay, I want to reach that level, and I'm going to learn something from him, be inspired by him, and fuel that to have me reach his level. Okay, so just think about that. It applies to all aspects of life. Now, again, there's always been people that have things easier than you, and that's going to make you so frustrated. I understand. I was there when I was 18 years old, but this is what makes life fun. Everybody has their own hands. Some, yes, are objectively better than other people's hands. Some people are born with millions and millions of dollars. But me personally, I wouldn't want to be born with millions and millions of dollars, because my fun is starting from zero. And you have to remember in life that the journey is the fulfillment and is the fun part. And there are people who have maxed out stats. They're playing life with the best hand, but they're miserable. So you don't know what everybody else is going through, okay? And just because somebody looks like they have it all together, that doesn't mean it's the truth. So work with the hand that you've been dealt, be grateful for it. And again, one foot in front of the other every single day, and you'll be so much better off. Touched on this already, but reiterating, always have humility and treat everybody with respect. We have something to learn from every single person on the planet. Let's say I meet a janitor and he's 40 years old. You know, I could still take something away from this guy, even though he's a janitor and I'm way more successful than him. Truth is, he's been around for 40 years. He's probably had tons more experiences than I have. Who knows? Maybe he was in a position where he couldn't work another job. Maybe he's an undocumented immigrant. I'm not saying that is like a good thing or anything, by the way, but you don't know people's story and why they are where they are. Chances are, they do have something that you could learn from them. So always approach everybody with kindness and never put yourself on this pedestal above other people. I think that's freaking ridiculous, okay? So now, black hat morality, right? So in your journey, you'll inevitably meet people who do shady things. I've met tens, hundreds of people that do really shady shit over the course of my career, okay? And they will cross your moral and ethical boundaries to turn a profit for themselves or even break the law. It's up to you to decipher what's right and what's wrong, but generally just go with your instincts and your gut. Avoid breaking the law unless you want to end up like, you know, this guy on the screen here in a few years. because look, it'll inevitably catch up to you. There's so many cases where 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, the government comes after people and locks them up, right? And so never think that you're above the law, never think that you're above society, because you're not. You're just one person. Even if you're worth billions, you're not above the law, and anything can happen to you, okay? So, if you're making a living from scamming innocent people, from stealing money from corporations, from selling drugs, or any other illegal activities, you will wind up in jail. And you'd be very, very damn lucky not to. And so a lot of these kids right now who are doing crypto and NFT scams and kind of all this stuff, it's like, the amount of times people have tried to rope me into this and pull me in. I mean, one, I wouldn't do it because morally, I just would not mess around with that stuff. But two, it's also like, dude, do you not think that, in 10 or 20 years, when the government catches up with all this stuff, all you guys who scammed multiple millions in the whole crypto bull run in its early stages right now will not be locked up? And even if they're right and they're not locked up, it's like, why would you want to take that chance? Why would you want to risk away the rest of your entire life to make a few $1,000,000 in crypto? And again, like I was saying earlier, with the people who already started off life with a better hand and maybe millions of dollars in their trust fund, it's like, dude, that takes away so much of the journey. And the whole point of us living life is to go through the journey. So if you're broke now, if you have $0, embrace it. Don't turn to scamming, this low point of your life, and enjoy every day trying to build yourself out. But anyways, that's my 2 cents on trying to keep you guys legal and doing the right things. So now we got to talk about balancing school versus work. And this is something that hits very close to home for me, because I've been doing this pretty much up until this year. Okay. So balancing school, older generations typically say, stay away from this online business stuff. Don't do crypto. Don't do this. Don't do that. Stay in school and you'll have an amazing future life. I know certainly my parents, my grandparents instilled this to me from young, and even still we're pestering me about it till literally the last couple of years. Right. And then we have a lot of the young generation, which you guys are seeing online, that are saying drop out and get rich now. The landscape of schools are changing. AI is going to replace schools. Way too many people are getting degrees now. They're becoming diluted, yada, yada, yada. Okay. So strong arguments on both sides. The majority of millionaires and even billionaires did go to top level universities. Majority of people making a ton of money in the world are educated and that have a great life. And then, on the young side as well, it's like, well, things are changing, and we do see that. So I think there's no right or wrong answer. Should you be in school or should you not be in school? I think you should learn and apply the beliefs of the older generations and also the new online money Gen Z kids to find your own best route forward. And that's exactly what I did. I personally continued my traditional education studying business, and then many principles I've learned in business school apply to the passion of building my own businesses online. But throughout that entire time, I was also learning and spending tons of time educating from the younger generation and people who are already making millions of dollars in their 20s. So I did both in tandem, and I think I got a pretty decent result. So if you guys wanted to take my route as well, I would highly recommend it. You just have to be prepared, because it is difficult to do both. So if you're in school, on the other hand, and you're thinking, when is it time to drop out? I want to go all in on online business. I don't need a degree. Sure. So if you're 100% confident, school is never going to get you to where you want in life, and you're not even going to use it as a fallback plan, then just get out ASAP. Why are you in there? Because society forced you, because your parents forced you. It's your life. You make your own decisions, right? And then on the other hand, if you're financially stable, so if you know you want to quit school for a while, you started an online business and you started to make enough money to support that, and you want to go all in on it without the burden of school, then I think you're at a good point. And again, if you decided to do both at the same time, fantastic choice, by the way. Figure out what takes backseat, because naturally you're gonna need to prioritize something a little more than the other, right? And so for me, I was a fast learner. I was here on the left side, which school always came relatively easy to me. I flew by with minimal studying, with minimal effort. And so I prioritized 80% of my day working on my online business, and just showed up to lectures, even though most of the time I was still doing my business at the back of the class, and then, cranked out my assignments and my exams, right? Now, if you find school challenging, yes, you might have to prioritize school a little bit more than your side hustles or your online businesses. And I understand that the con here is that you'll have less time to make your own money. But the pro of this is that you can become more creative. You can become better at time blocking, at schedule managing. You can build that absolute crazy work ethic and, the real foundation of what it takes to grind. And then by the time you're done school, you're going to propel so much farther ahead in life, because school is like this, this rubber band that every time you pushed against it, it always kind of held you back. but you were still able to get progress done on your online business. And then as soon as you finally finish from school, you graduated or whatever, that online band snaps and you shoot 100 feet into the air because you've picked up all these skills. You've learned how to do both at the same time. And now you're going all out into business and your career is going to take off. I've seen this happen with multiple people. Okay. So now we've got navigating romantic relationships, which probably a pretty big aspect for most people in their life. And let's figure out how to optimize this a bit. So should you be single or should you be in a relationship? Well, the truth is, again, there's no right or wrong answer. The data is inconclusive due to how many variables at play and the differences in individual personalities. There's extremely wealthy and successful people across the board, whether they're married or not. And on the contrary, extremely unsuccessful people, whether they're married or not. So this one's a lot more opinionative, and you know yourself and how you tend to act when you're single and when you're in a relationship. So keep that in the back of your mind. Many of us when we're single, no matter how focused we are on our goals, our biological brain takes over and we constantly find ourselves day in and day out seeking validation from potential future partners, eager to go on dates and meet new people, hit the clubs, go to the bars, go out. Or 3, we can't seem to have an unwavering focus without these thoughts of my potential future partner, kind of clouding my brain throughout my day. Now, if you're somebody who can ignore the whole avoid looking for a partner, finding love, hooking up scene, and focus on your career and on your growth with zero distractions, then I'd argue that maybe stay in this state for a while, stay single and just hunker down on your career growth, especially as a young person or a young man in life, and you'll go super far ahead. But for most people, I would probably say that a healthy relationship is the ideal route. Unhealthy relationship is the absolute worst route. So if I were to rank it, I would go healthy relationship, single, and then unhealthy relationship at the bottom, right? Because an unhealthy relationship is worse than being single and giving into lust and doing all this stuff, because you constantly feel guilty maybe for working on yourself and your business. Your partner is taking time away from you and the things you want to do. Your wants, needs, and futures don't align. There's also maybe some toxic behavior that's giving you a lot of stress and mental pressure and worries that's holding you back from everything else you want to focus on in life. And so if that kind of sounds like you, I don't know what to say. You should probably cut off that relationship as soon as possible for the sake of yourself and your future. Now, if you're in a healthy relationship, which is typically one that's fully supportive, that keeps you accountable, that helps you with your growth instead of takes away from it, it takes on some of life's pressures to increase your focus and productivity even more, then I'd say you're in the best place and you want to keep building and growing that, because that's going to take you places unimaginable. Now, let's talk about the loss aversion principle at play here. So for all of you guys who are maybe in an unhealthy relationship, a toxic relationship, and you'd rather be single or in a healthy relationship so that you can level up more, then I want you to think about something. There's over 8.1 billion people living on planet Earth right now. I think most of us can't even comprehend that number because it's so large, but just trying to think about it, just try to conceptualize it and realize that there is no way that you can say that isn't going to be somebody out there that's more compatible than your current partner in your unhealthy relationship. And, maybe you're this person that believes, but she's my soulmate. Personally, I don't believe in that. I believe in love is developed, just like passion is developed, just like anything is developed. But, even if you want to make that claim, if this unhealthy, toxic relationship goes on for too long, then wouldn't that just mean that it's not the right person and that you were wrong, that this is your soulmate and your soulmate is probably somewhere else? Right? Anyways, so, just think about how many options you truly have, and your options are only going to grow as you become more valuable as well. So focus on developing your character, making more money, focusing on your purpose, and drive towards achievement in your life. And all these things will make you far more attractive and also a better future partner that's more capable of providing the needs and the wants that person's looking for. And again, your options will expand and grow with time, especially as a man. A man doesn't have a lot of options early on, but as he gets older, with every single year, the options tend to open up more and more. Okay, so now if you are looking for a healthy relationship, you're living this lifestyle, I know it can be isolating. So how are you going to get dates, right? So first and foremost, yet again, work on yourself to the point where it makes it unreasonable for a girl not to want to be with you. And this isn't just about genetics. I'm not saying spend every day looks maxing and, trying to be this ultra giga chad that people, just can't help but resist. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about working on the things that will substantially outcompete those born with lucky, attractive traits when we're talking about just on a physical level. And there's some proof of this. You know, there's many guys that are highly sought after. Here's two of them. So here's Zac Efron and here's Jack Harlow, right? So, you know, I think it's pretty easy for all of us to tell that Zac Efron is objectively more attractive than our dear friend Jack Harlow here on the right. But, you know, even a guy like Zac Efron, there's a lot of good looking guys out there that are 5'7" and girls will immediately reject and turn down. But Zac Efron is a really short dude, but all of that gets overlooked because of everything else that he's built in his life, as to the point where women are like, okay, I don't care that he's like super short because all this stuff makes up for it. And he's way better than even a guy that's like 6'3" or some shit, right? So again, you can just work on other traits that will literally outcompete the traits that you lack in. Now let's take Jack Harlow. You know, he probably lacks in a lot of traits, and to be honest, he just looks average, or who knows, maybe for some people even below average, right? So why are women swooning over this guy? Well, it's because his character and status are so juiced up that who cares if he has a bad haircut? Who cares if his body doesn't look good? Who cares if he's just, you know, generally doesn't have great facial proportions or he's not an attractive guy? It doesn't matter, because he's worked on other aspects of his life to such a high extent that he's quite literally became way more attractive than people who were actually born with tons of lucky attractive traits. So bottom line here is, you know, as a guy, good looks will only get you so far. And if you want to be at the very top, you have to work extremely hard at whatever it is you're doing in life, and nothing can get around that fact. Now, from a girl's perspective, which I actually brought my girlfriend in to help me, you know, write some of this out, learn to be comfortable on your own. You know, don't be a needy guy, because it will make you more insecure and less attractive. Don't be picky when you're choosing girls, as in just based on looks. You know, give people a chance, because looks will inevitably fade over time. You shouldn't have one specific type, because if you keep failing with this specific type of people, then you're probably just looking at the wrong batch, right? So another thing is don't rely on external validation. It's very unattractive when guys seek other people's external validation to make themselves feel better. And that also ties into like being desperate. Again, if you are desperate, you give off that vibe, just not the place you want to be in. And then know your worth as well. So be mature, don't let people disrespect you, don't let women walk all over you, hold your ground, and that's gonna be a lot more attractive, and everybody's gonna pick up on that. Now let's talk about this thing called monk mode. It's been floating around a lot out there in sort of the online entrepreneurial community. So what is it, and should you do it? Well, a monk mode is basically just a period of complete immersion where every single waking minute of your day for a selected length of time should be focused on one big goal or one mission. And typically there's a list of non-negotiables that you make, which is kind of like an anti-vision, but specifically for monk mode. And, you know, again, examples: no dates, no going out, no drugs, no drinking, no eating out, daily meditation, daily reading. So this includes do's and don'ts in these non-negotiable lists. And you have to smash through every single item on the list every single day for that extended period of time in the monk mode. So the best times to go monk mode, in my opinion, is when you're first starting out and you haven't made any progress yet and you just need to get the ball rolling, or when you have a massive goal or project coming up that requires extreme focus. Maybe you're writing a novel, maybe you're starting a new business venture, whatever it might be, your life is going through some massive changes and it's gonna need a lot of head down focus for a certain period of time. Now, as far as the actual time length goes, if you wanna try this, I would say probably somewhere between 2 weeks to 6 months. But again, start small, so closer to the 2-week range, because this shit can be mentally challenging. And I honestly wouldn't recommend it for the majority of you guys, because I just believe that balance is the better way to live your life overall. Again, personal opinion, there's lots of people who've had success ripping monk modes year after year after year, but from somebody who's tried it multiple times, it does more harm than good, at least for me personally. And if you can try to just build the daily habits and the actions that you want to take into your own lifestyle and into balance that works best for you, then that way you're not just stepping into a new life for a 1 month period, but you're bringing in these traits to your existing life and you're making it better and better. And that is what's going to stick with you for more long-term results anyway. Now, this is a big one. Let's talk about managing your money. I got a lot of questions. Nathan, I've started to make my first money online. What should I do with it? Yada, 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 okay? So we got business versus personal, and then we'll talk a little bit about accounting. Live below your means when you're young. I think this is like, it just goes without saying. Now, I'm not saying that you should save your $5 every day and be a Graham Stephan and not buy that iced coffee from Starbucks. And that principle is understanding that $1 today will be worth $10 30 to 40 years down the road if you invest it properly. So with the power of compound interest and investments these days, the most important thing you can do while you're young is to not blow money on unnecessary dumb shit. Now, I understand you really want to have a celebration night and spend $3,000 on bottles, sure. I'm not going to be the guy that's going to hold you back because I've done a lot of the excessive spending. I mean, I bought a Lamborghini in cash. I bought $50,000-$60,000 watches, which, you know, in most people's eyes is absolutely stupid of me, especially as a young person, knowing that money could be worth a lot more in the future. But it's because I give myself a percentage of my monthly income that I allow for guilt-free spending. Look, I'm young. I want to spend my money too. Why am I going to save every last penny for the future? Tomorrow is never promised, and I don't want to die with regrets. God forbid something bad happens to me a lot earlier than I expect, all right? So you can make spending rules for yourself. This is mine. 10% of my monthly income I'll spend guilt-free, and 90% of that I'll continually reinvest into myself, my health, my education, my businesses, and my future. Now, chances are I'm probably making significantly more money than you right now, so you don't have to start using the same example as me. Maybe you can start at 50%, 60%, 70%, whatever works, and then try to bring that number down over time, just knowing that the more money you're able to save and invest, the better off you're going to be in your future. So the best place is to spend your money. Again, yourself, education, health, family, business, or investments. These are like kind of the top 6. And I think I've ranked them in order of what I would spend my money on. When I say myself, I'm basically referring to like necessities, things I need to live, you know, good quality food, good quality water, you know, a roof over my head, things like that. When I say education, I'm referring to anything that's going to help me reach the next level with my knowledge. So books, mentorships, courses, resources, university, stuff like that. When I say health, I'm referring to things that can help me get the edge. So better quality sleep, supplements, these sorts of things. Family, so maybe to me that's taking, you know, a loved one on a vacation or a trip or helping people out, even though I don't necessarily have to. Obviously, if there's an emergency, that would be, you know, at the top. Any emergency, I think, would be at the top. But generally, this is the order I'd follow, and then business. And then lastly would be investments. If I have leftover money, I can just park that in the market in something safe, like an S&P 500, and watch my money compound and grow year over year. Now, on the business side of things, let's talk about hiring an accountant. I believe that if your revenue is exceeding $7,000 a month and you have a lot of transactions coming in and out of your business bank accounts, it could be a good idea to work with an accountant come tax time, especially a tax specialist as well, to make sure all your books are in order. And then as you scale, you can eventually hire a full-time bookkeeper to keep track of all your revenues and expenses. That'll also give you a holistic understanding each month to see where every dollar is going. And it'll give you a lot of insight into what you can improve, margin control, so ultimately you'll make a lot more money. And I think even at like the $7,000 to $10,000 a month range, by just outsourcing your books at the end of the year with a CPA, you're going to make a lot more money because they're going to reveal things in your business that, one, you didn't even know about. Two, they're going to help you categorize your spending properly. So maybe you're missing out on potential tax credits or refunds or different ways to save money, and you wouldn't know unless you hired somebody professional who does this day in and day out as their job. So this all goes back into buying back your time as well. But we'll talk a little bit about how you can do this on the personal side to optimize your life as well. So, so I talk a lot in my more business related videos about buying back your time and, replacing yourself so that you can focus on the most needle moving activities that are going to get you to where you want to be. You can do the same thing in your personal life. If your budget allows for it and you're a guy that's, let's say, worth $200 an hour, or that's how much kind of money you make roughly, then it might make sense to have a personal assistant or a virtual assistant to manage even your personal day-to-day emails, scheduling, miscellaneous tasks you don't want to do within your solo business or possibly just on the personal end as well. You can find these people easily on Upwork, Fiverr, and onlinejobs.ph. Now, another thing that's been an absolute game changer for me is hiring a housekeeper/chef. So this is entirely worth it, in my opinion, if you're a young person making over $10,000 a month. The only case this is maybe not worth it is if you really enjoy cooking and it's kind of like a hobby for you. But if you're making great money, you live by yourself, you just want to execute, you want to grind, you don't enjoy cooking or being in the kitchen, this will save you so much time, so much mental energy. You won't have to think about what you want to eat every single day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Someone will take care of all of it. They'll also clean your your house. And this will allow you to, reallocate a lot of time back into your business. And I work with a company that's done a fantastic job of setting all this stuff up for me, buying back a lot of my time. You guys can always DM me on Instagram if you want a referral. All right, now let's talk about how to get what you want. And I'm just talking about hitting your goals here. I'm talking about every aspect of life, how to just achieve exactly it is that you want. So get clear on your vision. Again, in detail, I want you to write out in a journal 1-year game plan, your 6-month game plan, your 5-year game plan, your 10-year game plan, and write out exactly who you're gonna be, where you're gonna be living, who's gonna be your friends, who you're gonna see day to day, what you're gonna be doing for work, down to like what color are your bed sheets. The more specific you can make it, the more likely it is the majority of the things that you write down will come true. So again, this goes back into the manifestation, but it also just helps your subconscious sort of guide you on autopilot towards everything that you want. Again, here's a little roadmap. You make the plan, you visualize it, you manifest it, you meditate it, you reprogram your subconscious, you construct your new identity, you have delusional confidence in yourself, you take relentless action, you focus on the what, the how, and you leave the when up to the universe, and inevitably, this shit will work out for you. Okay, so now if you want hacks or shortcuts, cheat codes, whatever you want to call it, number one, leverage your connections. Leverage the other people around you who can help you take you from point A to point B much faster than you could do on your own. And just realizing that you can't do everything on your own. Sometimes you're going to need people. Humans were meant to operate in teams. We're meant to help one another out. That's how we progressed and came this far. If there was only one person living on Earth, even if it was the smartest person in the world 1,000,000 times over, they wouldn't be able to do shit. We need other humans in order to make our dreams come to life. Not only that, but if you're busy running a business, at some point you need to leverage your money rather than your time because you're becoming a much busier person. And let's say you want to go out and you want to have fun. How are you going to have fun now that you're richer because you're super busy? Well, having fun should only get better and better because you can afford to have cooler experiences around the world and meet different people. But again, you have to be willing to leverage your connections, your network, and leverage your money so that you can then have these fun and amazing, entertaining experiences. And then decide what you enjoy, right? So I think this is an important thing to think about as well. When you're making a lot of money, what do you want to do with your life? Do you want to travel? Do you want to party? Do you want to sit in solitude? Do you want to kick back with family? Do you want to treat your loved ones on grand vacations? You can leverage your money and connections to do more and more and in grander ways. And this is the position that I want to get all of you guys to using the framework in this video, because when you get to this point in life, it truly opens up and you have unlimited options. You wake up every single day and say, what do I want to do today? And one thing that'll help you massively in achieving all this is networking. So firstly, the cliches are 100% true. You hang around 5 millionaires and you'll be the 6th before you know it. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. You're the sum of the closest people in all. You've heard all this shit before, but it's just been in one ear and out the other. I know because I was just like you and I thought, what is going to these cocktail parties and talking to these people really going to do for me? Well, it depends where you're at, and it depends, do you already have connections that can help you with these things or not? So, but beyond all that and other variables we can't control, one thing that we can control right now is selecting who the people are that are closest to us in our daily life, because our closest friends are going to have the biggest impact on us, influencing us in our subconscious brains, whether we're consciously aware of it or not. And we need to very carefully choose who these people are, because they will ultimately decide if we're going to be a success or a failure, especially when starting an online business. So when you're going ahead and building out your tribe, you want to evaluate your social circle. If you have 100 friends but nobody close to you in life, people pleasing. Maybe you got to work on yourself internally, right? If you have like 3 to 5 people in your life who would take a bullet for you and you would genuinely do the same, these are probably the people that you need to prioritize, not the 97 others in your life that would likely backstab you for 100K. And so starting with those 3 to 5 people, those closest people in our life, our sort of immediate core tribe, do they have the positive qualities that we're looking for? Are they trustworthy? Do they have our best interests in mind? Are they respectful of our goals and ambitions? And if they're not, then it might be something that we need to work on. As an example, to be in my social circle, you need to be ambitious first. Once I dig a bit deeper into who you are and how I could benefit you or how you could benefit me, and we decide it's worthwhile, then we'll reach out and we'll maybe spend time building a relationship, and eventually we might become very, very close. And that's happened with multiple people that I've met later on in life. Started to really build my tribe of people that, again, are just extremely ambitious, super hungry, super happy to be alive, super grateful. We're all very like-minded, and we all believe that this world is ours for the taking, and we can truly, truly do, you know, pretty much whatever we want, except go to the NBA or some outlandish shit like that. You can also leverage social media, right? So good friend or connection is anyone who's extremely ambitious, in my opinion, because that ambition is going to propel you forward towards your goals as well. You don't want to be hanging around people who have horrible limiting beliefs and who are keeping you down and saying, no, you could never do that. We should stick to this. We should stick to that. These are the people that, unfortunately, 99% of people are stuck hanging around with the majority of the time. And if we can just make that one change, try to find like-minded people, then I promise that I'll have a huge lasting butterfly effect in every aspect of our life. Now, let me be clear, you know, you don't need to only hang out with successful people or the most talented or hardworking, but the ambition to change and to grow and to never stop is the most important thing that you should be looking at. And these are the people that you're going to want in your corner along your journey, as they will meet other cool people as well. You'll have amazing experiences together, and you can all benefit from having a social circle or a tribe that's built around ambition. Anyways, I think that's a solid place to end off the video. So I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. I really hope you enjoyed it. And I feel like if you watch this whole video, you took notes, you really absorbed everything I have to say, then you're going to be building your future from a far better place. You're going to have unlocked all this knowledge that I wish I had when I was starting out. And if you can internalize everything I said here, I can almost promise you that you'll go on to have a lot more success in your life because of this. So watch your video again, send it to a friend. I'll also put another video on screen here, which will show you guys, in my opinion, the best way to get started with online business right now, which is the perfect video to go ahead and watch now that you've built your new mindset. So thank you guys, and I'll see you in a week. Peace.